Dash Dilek, welcome to Tibet TV's program on Tibet support groups. Today we will discuss on how International Tibet Network operates in Taiwan. As we all know that International Tibet Network is a coalition of Tibet support organizations around the world. Its operations scattered around the world. Today let us discuss how it operates in Taiwan with Ms. Penghsuan Lee, who is an East Asia Regional Coordinator of International Tibet Network based in Taiwan. Welcome to Tibet TV, Ms. Lee.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Ms. Lee, as an East Asia Regional Coordinator of International Tibet Network, what kind of activities does your organization undertake in Taiwan? How strongly does the pressure from Chinese government influence your activities related to Tibetan cause?
Yes, so my main duty here would be helping the Tibet groups here in East Asia, especially in Taiwan, to proceed their works in many aspects. Like they do advocacies, they talk to like MPs, they talk to government officials. They also do like grassroots campaigns. They have like a lot of activities and events as per like the awareness raising aspects, like talks, movie screening and stuff like that. And also, people here, like Tibetans and non-Tibetans here, they do the March 10th uprising, like commemorations. So these would be the things that I'm helping them on. And as many other places, like many other my colleagues around the world, due to the groups in their region, what I'm mainly providing them is like the resources, the talking points, or like the connection between the groups in Taiwan and the groups somewhere else. For example, there are also some joint like actions the Taiwanese group would like coordinate it with the groups around the world. So, for example, in Japan, and also in the other part of the world too. And as far as the influence from China, there are always, plenty of the influence. As everyone must know, like Taiwan has always been quite a target, for like the Chinese infiltration, the disinformation, and like the Tibet would, along with like the Taiwanese independence issue, Tibet is always like another main kind of topic or targets that would be in front of like the infiltration and the disinformation issues. Yeah, so the groups here, well, including myself, what we face on a daily basis might be like there are like false information that we have to correct on, and also there will be like the threats on the digital security aspects. There will be like attempting hacks from like the government-backed hackers. I believe a lot of like Tibetans or non-Tibetans activists have these problems before and still now. And yeah, and also back then, because like right now it's quite difficult to travel, right? But back then, in our like Tibet-related events, you can see like weird people coming up, trying to like getting more information, know like who's the speaker, who's like that, who's this Tibet groups, and who's the leader of the groups. Like they try to like kind of contract information from us, and till now we're still not sure what kind of like purpose that they're having this kind of information. But as far as I know, this will be like constant threats, and these are not the threats that like the usual, like a usual activist in Taiwan would face. I think it's somehow specifically on like the people working on Tibet cause.
Okay, Ms. Lee, as you said that there are lots of pressures from Chinese government. Despite all these challenges and pressures, your organization still works for the cause of Tibet. Now, my question is, how do you bridge between Taiwanese and Tibetan cause?
I do believe that there's a lot of similarities and also differences between like Taiwanese and the Tibet community. As far as the political, like the activist aspect, you can see that like the Taiwan and Tibet are like facing the same if you not say enemy, but you can say threat, like the Chinese influence around the world, and how it kind of like bully on us. It's pretty much the same thing. So I think the Taiwanese people will have that kind of sympathy towards the Tibetan people, and that would be one thing. And also, I think right now, as we can see that in this global trends of have finally having this kind of like um, either like realization or like starting to have such distrust on the Chinese regime, the Chinese government. It's really important for us to like raising all these awareness all together, to push towards our cause. And of course, I think it has to this kind of movement. It has to include um, like other movements too. We can see that there are Uyghurs, there are Southern Mongolians, there are Hong Kongers. All of us are facing this similar threats. And as far as the connection between Tibetans and Taiwanese, I think there's also a lot of things that Taiwanese can learn from Tibetan people. For example, like we can see that through the 60 years of the Tibet movement of the diaspora, we can see that Tibetans have formed such strong like international alliance around the globe. Like everybody knows Tibet, knows His Holiness Dalai Lama, and knows like the struggle of Tibet for many years. But I think really less people, because Taiwan has just been like democratized, have this democratization process. I'm sorry, like all this process of becoming a democracy happened in the 90s. So it's just around like 30 years. And I think as far as, promoting ourselves on the international platform, we have a long way to go, and we have a lot to learn from our Tibetan friends. So I think that would also be one point that I try to, like kind of introduce the Tibetan cause to our Taiwanese partners, and trying to let them know about Tibet, because there's also a lot of things that we can learn from.
Okay, Ms. Lee, when you look at today's global scenario, how important do you think is the role of middleweight approach for Tibetans to sustain Tibetan movement?
I think the middleweight approach is really important, because right now I think after decades of the movements, the struggle, we can see that the human rights, like the human abuses inside Tibet, has getting worse and worse. And as we can see, um, the abuses, or like the problem Tibetan face, it's not only just limited in the Tibetan autonomous region, not only in Tar, but also in all the Tibetan regions, even in the Chinese provinces. So I guess it's really important to raise that it's not only to it's I think it's really important to have that, to kind of like include all the Tibetan regions. And also because right now it's like the era of like internet, and we have so many connections like with all the people around the world. And it's, as all we can see, it's a really important time to really outreach to the Chinese people, whether like the Chinese inside China or the Chinese overseas. A lot of them, they immigrate or whatever, or study abroad. And I think the middleweight approach is really a good thing, for us to start with, when we talk to Chinese people, especially because when they were like learning their own propaganda, they were like really more or less brainwashed by their governments, to have that aspect of, Tibet has always been a part of China and stuff like that. And it would be really important, really difficult for them to accept, the discourse of Tibet independence at the very first moment. So I guess this will be a good start. Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Lee, as you are aware that the recent USA new law, Tibetan Policy and Support Act of 2020, has sent a huge message to the Chinese government on various important issues, particularly the reincarnation of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. So the question is, will this new law counter China's political ambitions?
I think it differs, because like as long as I know, like U.S. governments, they've been having all kinds. They've been quite supportive, explicitly or like implicitly. Like they have quite supportive to like the Tibet cause, as they always do. But I think it really depends on what the U.S. governments are gonna implement their regulations, really implement their budget items, on the cause, or like the programs that really are supportive of the Tibet cause. But I think just even just the gesture of passing such act itself, it really sent a strong message to like the Chinese government that we're not gonna, like the U.S. government or like the United States, as a country, is not gonna take with their bullying. We're not gonna just go align with them, because they are having this their sharp powers or their strong force or their threats to like the whole world. We're not just gonna bend over like that. And as you can see, like beside like the act on Tibet, they're also sending like acts on Uyghur, on Taiwan, and on some, or like on Hong Kong also. So I guess all these kind of gestures, all of them, they send a strong message to the Chinese government that the world, or like the world biggest power, is not gonna stand with that anymore. So I guess it's pretty critical.
Okay, Ms. Lee. Now I'm going to ask you a very interesting question. As you know that His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama is globally known as peace icon, and he has also visited your country several times. So the question is, how relevant do you think is the message of His Holiness on love, kindness, and compassion in today's world?
I think His Holiness messages and all his, like these great thoughts on love and compassion and all those wisdoms has really, they have really like made a positive impact on the world. I must say, because we can see that through the past probably like 10 years, or like past 2 decades, there has been so many conflicts, and we can see that even in the activism aspect, we can see that there are so many different movements and causes. They are like moving toward like extreme ends. Even um, with the movements around China, we can see like in the Uyghur movements, there are some worries about it going extreme, and also in the other movements, we can see like all the protest, or like all these discourses of people protesting. It We always have the worries on them to become like violent. But I think like His Holiness, and with all the Tibetans in the Tibet cause, like it has set a really wonderful example of like the nonviolence resistance, and also like like loving your enemies instead of hating them.
Okay, Ms. Lee, before we end our discussion, would you like to give Losa message for our viewers?
Okay, yeah, I think it's I'm really happy to know that like the Tibet Losar happen to be the same with like the Lunar New Year. So yeah, I'm honored to like having the same dates, like celebrating this great day, and with our Tibetan friends. And yeah, just like to say Happy New Year and Losa Jashidalek. Yeah, thank you.
With this, we're going to end our discussion here. I would like to thank you for joining our program, and I would also like to wish you a very happy new year. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Happy New Year.